Welcome to another TMG interview, everyone. My name is Paul Preston, talking to an actor who's been in the biz since he was a teenager, appearing in all manner of 80s movies that you love, and not slowing down, working in every kind of movie and TV show in the last 20 years, defying getting locked into a genre. His latest appearance is in the new romantic comedy, Queen Bees. It's Courtney Gains.
Hey, how are you today?
Courtney, damn decent. Thank you for showing up. I always like the person who is joining me to tell me about the film that is one of their latest things that they're here to go deep on or to plug or what have you. So tell me about Queen Bees.
Okay, so I only have a cameo in it, but it's kind of a pivotal cameo. It made the trailer, which was great. But it's essentially about a woman who is very independent, who's going to go into an old folks' home only for a month while they redecorate her house, and her house catches on fire, and she ends up having to live there, and realizes that that environment is like going back to high school, cliques and all this stuff. And long short of it, she ends up finding love, but it really brings up the subject of people growing old and how the transitions they have to go through. Losing a house would be a terrible thing, I think, for any old person. My character, I'm just a guy who steals her Ellen Bernstein's purse, and then they all come out and get me and take care of me, and it's sort of their first bonding moment of standing up against somebody. So
yeah, it really is. I mean, you came on the scene playing a jerk in Children of the Corn. If
a killer's a jerk, then I'm a jerk, my friend.
You've been exactly.
He kills a dog, right? I mean, yeah.
and played various jerks since then. So really, what happens to you in the parking lot in Queen Bees is the culmination of 30 years of people wanting this to happen to you.
I see. Yes. All the people who wanted me to get kicked in the nads. Yeah, I have friends going, I'm running that movie just to see Loretta Devine kick you in the nads. I'm like, wow, is that how you feel about me? I didn't know.
I'll make it the little GIF that's all it is.
I put up a post on Facebook, just a picture where it looks like she's about to hit me in the nads, and I just wrote down another day at the office,
Now, yeah, it is a brief appearance here, but it is a thing that you can still go catch in theaters, and I watched it on VOD as well, so it's out there, YouTube, Vudu, Amazon, you name it.
Yeah, for a chance for me to get to work with Ellen Bernstein, Anne Margaret, Jane Curtin, and Loretta Devine, I wasn't going to miss that. They're all icons in their own right,
Yeah, and did you get to see James Caan? Because he also is featured.
I didn't. I have met him once before, but no, I didn't have anything with him or Christopher Lloyd. But yeah, I just got to work with the ladies, the Queen Bees themselves.
I knew Caan wasn't in your scene, but I thought, oh man, you got one of the stars of The Godfather, you got one of the stars of The Exorcist. Yeah. I mean, a guy my age, at least, it's like these are
Brian's song. One of the most tear-jerking movie of the weeks on television of all time. I remember as a kid crying seeing that thing.
Yeah. So when you met James Caan, did you just start crying or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
He was eating with Robert Duvall. I disturbed their food to say hello, and I'd worked with Robert Duvall in Colors, and he's one of my favorite actors of all time. It was a little gathering, but I disturbed them from eating, and they were very polite. They were very polite gentlemen.
Now, is this a kind of role that is just a blast because it's come in, get a few laughs, and you're on your way, right? Like
the thing is, when you do something that small, you don't even know if it's going to make the movie, much less make the trailer. So I'm very happy that it turned out to be such a good thing, and is even led to us having a conversation. So it's turned out to be a blessing. I got the job because Michael Lembeck, the director, I took a comedy class that he does with his sister Helene Lembeck, that their father taught for a number of years.
Harvey?
Yes, correct.
Right, yeah.
It's called the Harvey Lembeck Comedy Workshop. And tons of incredible people have come through there, like Robin Williams and John Larroquette. So it was a really good experience. And then when I heard he was doing the movie, I said, hey, you got anything? And he said, well, there's this thing you might be right for. And when I got here that I could work with all those actresses, I was like, absolutely, let's do this. So it turned out to be a good thing.
I was going to say, with a career as prolific as yours and a career prolific as Michael's, I was wondering if you're paths had crossed, but you hadn't worked together before. Because if you don't know, Michael Lembeck directed a ton of episodes of Friends and Mad About You, and Everybody Loves Raymond. He's a classic TV director, and films like Tooth Fairy. Yeah.
Yes, he's done a lot. He started out as an actor, and then he worked his way into being a director, and he's had a prolific career. And when it comes to comedy, that guy knows his shite, you know.
Now, I mentioned these legends, and you had mentioned another one, Jane Curtin. Do you fawn at all, or do you just kind of go, you play it cool? I mean, obviously someone could see you now, as they probably would at Comic-Cons and things, and have to play it cool. You're like, this is the guy, Children of the Corn. He's been in so many great movies. But then do you then have to like hold back from, I got to just take it easy because this is Jane Curtin, one of the SNL primetime, not ready for primetime legends.
When you meet people that you admire, it's even as myself, it's surreal, And so I got introduced to all the actors from Michael, which was very nice as an introduction. And then at the end of it, Jane Curtin was like, I've seen you in everything. And that was I was like, wow, Jane Curtin's telling me she's seen me in everything, right? It's like, it was such a great icebreaker. It made me feel so good that she's saying, yeah, I know who you are. Because sometimes big people act like they don't know who you are because they think they're too big. And that just shows you with her, she's the exact opposite. She was super down to earth. Got to spend a bit of time sitting and talking with her, and that was one of the highlights of the day for sure.
That's good to hear. That's the kind of story you want to hear,
Yeah.
And the last thing, because it wasn't a massive part, like you said in the film, but again, there's a stunt with an 80-plus-year-old woman. So how do you make sure? Okay, now pull your knee a bit, or how do you just make sure Ellen doesn't just whack the one?
Make sure you hit me in the thigh, please.
Exactly. I want to work again.
Wasn't Loretta Devine's first rodeo either, and she got close once, I think early in the beginning. I was like, to the thigh. That was that. And the big thing was just making sure I hit the Fernie pad or not the Fernie pad, but the little thin pad they have for you to fall on. As long as you hit that on the cement, you're okay.
Now, I had mentioned at the top, of course, Queen Bees. It's out there now to check out. But since the 80s, Courtney's appeared in all manner of stuff. Children of the Corn, Secret Admirer with C. Thomas Howell. That's one.
Secret Admirer, yeah. That was an experience. That was an experience. That was the first film where I learned the hard lesson that if it's not in the script, don't listen to what they tell you. Because I'd been rolling pretty good at that point, and I kind of it was kind of not that big a role, and the director sold me on that he was going to expand my character. And then when I got there, it didn't happen, and I started when I asked him, he said, "Oh yeah, I just said that to get you on this movie." Now that guy went on to be a huge, huge producer. Guy should have given me a job, right? At least give me a bigger job once, since he kind of fooled me. But I learned that hard lesson that if it's not on the paper, it's not probably going to be. They're saying it, but they don't mean it.
Mm. And Back to the Future, Can't Buy Me Love. We mentioned Colors, The Burbs, Memphis Belle. So I want to give you a blanket question about all of that. So you start coming in as a teenager in Children of the Corn. Who was there for you or to help you make sure that you transition into the competent, successful work? I mean, you have 130 some credits. That's like 3 projects a year if you average it out.
Right.
So you've become a competent, successful actor. They don't all when they start young. People veer into all manner of nonsense. How did you stay on target and become a successful adult actor? 2
things. They're kind of tied together. But so I had a mentor, a guy named Virgil Fry, who was my acting coach. And he also then also became my manager for a number of years. So he taught me the craft, and broke me into the business. Now, in that class, a lot of young actors broke out pretty quick. Like, he was a very good teacher. Within a year, people would start working. Well, that didn't happen for me. It took me 5 years in that class. And so it was a blessing in disguise because I learned to really work at my craft and learn to appreciate it as a craft. Whereas what happened with a lot of these actors is they started working and they stopped studying. Now, once I started working, I didn't stop studying. I studied with him for another 5 years. So I was in his workshop for 10 years. And then the rest of my life, I've either been in a workshop or teaching one. So that to me is the biggest key to the longevity. And what everybody kept saying was, you say it's still confidence. He instilled a lot of confidence in me. And he kept saying, like, look, when you turn 18, you're going to blow up. And because back then the emancipation laws where you had to be 18 to work a full 8-hour day, they've since changed that. But back then that was the way it was. So they were always looking for actors who were 18, who looked younger, which I was. So it was perfect timing that I had 5 years of professional workshop training, was 18, looked 15, and teen cinema was blowing up in the 80s. So it was a combination of all of those things. And like I said, I didn't stop. And the only times that I ever did take my eye off the ball is when my career would falter. And that happened really right after Memphis Belle. I thought I had arrived. My head got a little big, and I thought I had arrived. And I started a band. I started a production company. I started doing some other things. And I was getting really good opportunities for auditions and things, and I wasn't doing my work. And really, I blew probably the highest peak of my career by not being prepared. And then shortly thereafter, I got married and had a kid, and woke up that I had to take care of business again. And that's when I started taking my acting seriously again, and I went back to work. And that's what you see in the 90s. I have this whole guest star TV run, because that was to pay the bills. That was bread and butter. And though I got some wonderful roles, don't get me wrong, I got some of the best roles I've ever gotten, or guest stars I've done on television. Some of the most challenging roles I've ever done. But it's the what's kept me grounded, what's kept me everything is the work itself. The rest is all smoke and mirrors and BS, man. But the work, doesn't matter if I'm doing a $40 million film or a $40,000 film. The work when the camera rolls is the same. My job is the same. And if I do my job well, people are moved, and that's my job.
Yeah, Glenn Close called it, I believe. They asked her why she does what she does, and she says she changes people's molecules.
Wow.
She changes their makeup. Like, you come into her performance, stage, film, whatever, and you leave different. Can it be microscopic or massive, whatever it is, because you did what you did as an actor. You've changed their molecules. So
it's the power of cinema. It's the power of cinema. I don't take total credit. It's the power of cinema. But it's funny. One of the questions I've been getting asked in all my interviews is, who on the list? Who do I want to work with? And that's my answer, Glenn Close. So
yeah? Oh, well, there you go.
I think she's a beast. I think she is a beast. And I also, beyond being a beast of an actress, which clearly she is, I hear from those who have worked with her that I do know that she's actually a very generous actor. So on top of that, that's even makes the pot sweeter. I know she's great, but if she's great and she's good to work with, wow! I want that. Let's get it on. Let's see what's what.
Yeah, she's getting Hillbilly.
A great experience. So she's on. Yeah, that's funny that you brought her up.
Well, she's good in Hillbilly Elegy, but you go back even another year to The Wife. If you saw that film with her and Jonathan Pryce, she's tremendous in that.
And I auditioned for Hillbilly Elegy, and I wanted on because of her, and I didn't get it. A friend of mine did, but I was like, damn it, that was so close to Glenn Close.
Yeah, man. Well, you'll have more opportunities because she ain't quitting anytime
Yeah, that's
soon.
true. That's true. So hopefully that comes to pass.
And then I just heard an interview with James Corden recently, and he talked about writing a big show in London to kind of put him on the map. And it was
musical theater. He comes from a complete musical theater background. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, well, you got that Tony before he ever did anything else for a one-man show. But he said, and it kind of talked about the same time you got it. Like, you have the fame, and then comes a point where you're like, I could either collapse into, personal breakdown or obscurity because I take the work for granted, or you turn it into. Then he said he made that turn and he realized he was being a jerk. A couple friends told him, you're being a jerk, which didn't hurt either. But he listened,
Those are good friends. Good friends. Going back to when I said I sort of took my eye off the ball after Memphis Belle, it was also a combination of burnout. I hit a point toward, after I was 4 or 5, 6 years of just working straight. There was sort of this point where I was working nonstop, and I was bouncing back and forth, having to do the ADR on Can't Buy Me Love, which my octave of my voice is here, but I'm doing colors and my octave of my voice is down here. And then I'm trying to find that. I was bouncing back and forth, doing 2-3 projects at once. And it was the Burbs, really, where that character was kind of lost. It was kind of a fish out of water. and I was taking myself to that place, as a method actor, and I kind of got lost, and it got to the point as a method actor where I changed my walk and my talk and my rhythm and my cadence. The scary moment was where I could not remember how I walked. That was I have to say, as a young actor, that was a very scary moment. And when I turned to sort of my team or people around me, and I said, I think I'm working too much. I'm getting lost here. Nobody cared. I mean, that's just the god awful truth. They were just like, oh, poor Courtney, he's working too much. Like literally, that's the response I got. Like nobody. So there was really nobody there to explain what I've learned later. Is a way to explain it is they call it flood. It can be in a business or what they call it the tipping point, right? Like you're in this, you work for something, and all of a sudden it takes off, and when it takes off, you're in that flood. You're not controlling it; it's controlling you, and you're on the ride, and it's real easy to get lost, and that's how people do get lost. How they get caught up in drugs or whatever they do, right? It's like it becomes too much, and they don't know how to handle it. And how I handled it is I just stepped back for a while. That's how I handled it. I said, I got to step back, and I needed to, like, I had other things I wanted to try. The music, started my first band, and that was a great experience. And started production companies, started doing music videos, and that was also interesting. And I don't regret any of it. But I may have hurt my career. But at the same time, I retained my soul. I kept my sanity, and I learned how to start to know when I needed to take breaks and when I needed to go like on a road trip or get out of LA. LA is not a giving place. It sort of takes, it's like you're always having to like create results. There's no process. So it's like you got to get away from LA and get on the road or go camping or, go to Europe or something, just to get away from that all and get new stimuli, and grow. So you have something new to contribute. I don't know how I'm riffing on this, but the perfect band, as an example, is ZZ Top. They've had an amazing 50 freaking year career, but they will stop. They'll do a couple records, they'll do a tour, and then they stop and they all go their separate ways and they learn and do other things and play on their own bands and whatever. And then they get back together when they feel like it, and then they do it again. And I think that's the difference between them and so many bands, that their managers and their record labels run them into the freaking ground and then they implode. They have a 5-year run, a 10-year run, and then boom, they're drugged up, they're sexed up, they're out of their minds, not in reality. They've been catered to. They've lost it. They've lost any real connection to what got them there in the first place.
Watered down, overexposed.
But I think it's overworked as much as overexposed. I think it's overworked. I think they're doing a record, they're doing a tour for like a year, and then they have to go right where they're doing that. They're expected to kick out another record, and then go on tour again. You'll burn out. Any human being will burn out, and it's the same thing with an actor. If they get too busy, they can overwork. I really believe that, and I've learned how to pace myself and deal with it and know when I'm getting too off kilter, and when I need a break. But I learned that lesson. I learned a lesson the hard way. But I don't regret stepping back, because I'm telling you, for a minute there, I felt lost. It was a scary feeling. It was a scary feeling. You don't know your own walk. I mean, that's weird, man. That's weird.
Well, that brings up two things I have to say, because I tell anyone who will listen, the time I saw ZZ Top, because it's the way to see ZZ Top at a Harley biker rally with the Tubes and the Foo Fighters.
That's a fantastic lineup, man.
Right? And my buddy Justin and I, we got there early, and we were like, is that really the stage? Because all the bikers are like drinking. They're in like a huge tented area where they're like selling biker stuff. It's like a big. And
that is great stuff right there.
Can we really walk right to the front of the stage? Like nobody. And we stood right in the front of the stage waiting for the bands. We're going to hang here. So
that's
amazing
fantastic.
Show.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbons is an amazing guitar player. I got to meet him once, and that was set up by. So Gibbons has his own band too, and he's not doing the ZZ Top thing, right? That he enjoys doing. Friend of mine, a guy named Martin Gigi, is his band. What they call it? He's the keyboard player in the band, but the guy who's head of the band. There's a name for that. The band,
band leader.
Band leader. Thank you. Band leader. He's the band leader of his band. And on a music note, that guy and I, we met in this entertainment basketball league. That's a whole story. Somebody's doing a documentary about that. Talk about egos and stuff. Crazy. But he and I met on that, and I found out he's a musician, and he helped me with a record, and then we ended up making a movie called Benny Bliss and the Disciples of Greatness. And it's a rock and roll road movie with an anti-technology bent, which he took from me because I'm a little anti-technology. Like I suspect these phones are listening to me, and I'm pretty sure they are because then things pop up on my YouTube page right after we talk about it, right? So, so I'm always like, and when people are putting the phones to their heads early on, and I'm like, that's got to be like radiation. That can't be good for you. It's like I've always questioned all this stuff, but this band we put together, Martin's all in it and directed it and co-wrote it. He plays keyboards. The band's live, and I sing live. No punch-ins, no nothing in this movie, and it's a pretty fun, crazy little rock and roll road movie. So if looking for something you haven't seen that I'm in that's pretty zany, it's worth the rental. I say if you watch it, if you smoke out. If you drink, have a few beers, and it'll be a fun ride.
Give me the title again.
Benny Bliss and the Disciples of Greatness.
All right.
And my character looks like something between Evel Knievel and Elvis. So that's right there is worth your price of admission right there.
Well, listen, it's a challenge to like be a completest about everything you've done in your career. So if you
That's true. But through Martin, I got to meet Billy Gibbons, and and he was a super nice guy, and that was a great experience. I wish, if I ever had the chance to I'd probably be intimidated as hell, but if I ever had the chance to sit down and play some guitar with him, I'd probably lose my mind. You know what I mean?
And the other thing, you're
tasty, so tasty.
The other thing you mentioned that reminded me of something is that's how I spent the pandemic, outdoors. You talk about getting out of LA, I
did the same.
8 national parks.
Wow.
Every manner of beach, forest, preserve, a botanical garden you could find. Everything was closed except for that stuff. So I went out and did all that. It was great. And so I recommend that to anybody out there. Although I hear now they're Disneyland-like lines at Yosemite. So.
Of course, everybody's going nuts now to whatever it is they're into. It's like a backlog now, whether it be concerts or going to museums. Everybody's just right now because they all have been cooped up for a year.
Yeah. So a couple more touches on your early career, because Back to the Future. This is you pushed George McFly out of the way for that one dance with Lorraine, and really, you're the last attempt of fate to keep those two apart. That of course George then intercepts and makes with and keeps the McFly lineage intact.
Correct.
So did you know you're in one of the most iconic films of all time? Even just recently, if you've seen the Marvel series Loki, it's all about like crazy timelines. Yeah, they're photoshopping Marty McFly into shots of, because it's just beyond iconic at this point. It's Star Wars iconic. Did you know when you were involved?
No. We knew, Spielberg was involved, so that gave us hope, right? But he wasn't directing; he was producing, and we didn't really know Robert Zemeckis was going to go on to be Robert Zemeckis either, right?
The used cars guy, that guy,
Yeah, exactly, right? So we knew that it had a budget, and we knew that it had some juice behind it, but did any of us know it was going to go on to be the top trilogy of all time? No, how could we? So, and I had several friends in there, like J.J. Cohen is somebody I worked with in Secret Admirer, and we became friends. Billy Zane and I have obviously worked together, and Casey Shamasco and I've done like 3 projects together. So we all kind of came up the same time, and that ended up obviously being a great cash cow for those guys, because the residuals, the better a movie does, the better residual income you get from the screenings and rentals and all that. So and it was a blessing for me too. I was only supposed to work 3 days, but I was there before Eric Stoltz got let go. So when they did the reshoots, I got paid for that whole time.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So you were there to see that whole change in the lead.
Yeah. So I was very lucky. Crispin and I had already worked together before on the first thing I'd ever done, which was an AFI film that I always forget the name of it, but the whole, there's been 3 versions of it made. One with Sean Penn, one with him, and with somebody else, called the Beaver Trilogy. It's like this cult thing. That was the first thing I ever did. And Crispin Glover was dressed like Olivia Newton-John in that black outfit from Grease. It'll forever be imprinted in my mind.
Can it be imprinted on other people's minds now? I mean, is that findable?
The
Is it?
Beaver trilogy. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
it's
find it.
out there. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you can talk to the director too. Matter of fact, a friend of mine who Dusty Sorg, who was an actor who he played my brother in Criminal Minds, which is a role I'm really proud of. I did played a really complex character. He just bought it, so I know it's still available. There's even a documentary about the fact that the 3 movies were made and all these actors were in it. So there's a whole thing about this called the Beaver Trilogy.
Yeah, so let's just roll off a few of those. Criminal Minds, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Bones, CSI, My Name is Earl. I mean, these are some of the biggest TV shows of the last 20 years that you popped up in. Not
Seinfeld,
to mention,
not too shabby.
oh yeah, you're an episode. Which Seinfeld episode were you?
The smelly car episode. It's actually ranked up there in one of the best. Which I don't know, but I'm the subplot. The returning of the Rochelle video. And doesn't want to pay. Jason doesn't want to pay because he didn't rewind it, and then he ends up getting stolen in the smelly car because the windows are down. It's pretty funny stuff.
Well, there you go. See, and then at the same time, you're popping up in Sweet Home Alabama, Faster, The Quiet Ones, Halloween 07. That's the zombie, right? Halloween.
That's the first. Yeah, that's the first Rob Zombie one. Yeah.
You're uncredited there. So what went on with? How'd you get
what
involved?
happened was the scene I'm in is the couple scenes. The scene I'm in is a rape scene of a girl in the ward, and that's how homie gets out, right? And he and it's nasty, and so it was so nasty that when you're filming, everybody hovers around the screen to watch the shooting, right? Nobody. It was just Zombie, and he gets going. This is very disturbing.
Wow, you disturbed Rob Zombie.
Yeah, think about that for a minute, right? So that's saying something, isn't it? So when they did the testing, shocker, the women said they didn't like the rape scene. Shocker. It's like, what woman is going to like the rape scene? So they decided to take that scene out and create a different escape where he used some of his well-known actors he's used before, some great horror actors. And but if you get the director's cut, I am in fact in that version because Rob wanted to keep it.
Okay.
It was the studio that made him change it. So it's in the director's cut if you want to see it, and that's why I don't get the credit, or I get the uncredited credit. But I sign posters and stuff constantly at conventions because all of them know I'm in it.
Well, now it makes total sense. You disturbed Rob Zombie, so then he wanted to keep it. That makes sense.
Of course,
that makes sense.
He wanted to keep it. He loved it. But the studios, like I said, when they did the testing, it out of all the violence and everything in the movie, apparently that's what the women found offensive. So I understand, but I'm just like, really, you had to go spend money on a test to find out women don't like rape scenes? I mean, that's just stupid to me.
And what do you make of horror? Because again, in Children of the Corn, you slashed America's sweetheart, Linda Hamilton's face, and then recently in 2015, you're in the Funhouse Massacre. Renee and Ben are friends. I know those guys, and
I've worked with those guys. I've worked for them twice. I did Funhouse Massacre and Camp Coldbrook.
Funhouse Massacre was creepy. So do you?
Pretty good, yeah.
Do you like horror? Is it your thing?
It's not. I would not go say I'm a horror lover. I don't like violence, Though, of course, in movies, I mean, violence is everywhere. Yeah. I've shot more. I don't like guns either, but I've shot. You name a gun, I've shot it. Including a .60 caliber in Memphis Belle. You name it, I've shot it. But what I like is a good story. So I don't care if it's horror or drama or a comedy. I just like a good story. That's what I'm looking. I'm looking for a character with a good arc if I can find it. But that being said, of course, because of Children of the Corn, because of that iconic character Malachi, everybody from Rob Zombie to these guys, they want horror icons in their movies. So I get offered these jobs, and if I'm not doing something else and they're paying right, I'll do it.
It's good company. Bill Moseley and Sid Haig and all the people.
I couldn't think of those guys. Bill Moseley, Sid Haig. Yeah, those are great guys. I do conventions with those. The late great Sid Haig.
Yeah.
talk about a career, man. That guy started out in black and white films. I mean, he long career. Long career.
No, we did an article on him at my website because that was a passing that should be noted, perhaps more than the mainstream.
Right. Yeah, it wouldn't be in mainstream exactly, but
Yeah.
but within the horror world, that's he's significant.
And one last question about one of those movies, then I'll get on to my final question. But in Faster, could you sense that? I mean, you talked about stars. Could you, to me, go back 20 years and change, and there's nothing more exciting than The Rock grabbing a microphone and captivating 30,000 people in an arena. In the palm of his hand, he has them. And I see that occasionally translate to film. Now he's starting to get to where, I think the Fast and Furious movies are like, okay, this is his vein of gold for the smack he can talk, the muscle he can show off. But man, back in those days of wrestling. So Faster is one of The Rock's, Dwayne Johnson's earlier films. Could you sense he had the star quality to keep this up?
Oh, I think by then he was already a big star. I think he hasn't stopped working since then, certainly. But I actually thought that movie was a bit of a departure. A drama. He had been doing a lot of like Disney stuff, and but I mean, he'd already gone. He used to just be The Rock. Then he was Dwayne, Johnson. You know what I mean? He had made that transition. A couple stories I'd be happy to tell about that movie, though. Two of them. One is I got to work with Billy Bob Thornton again, and that was great. And I say again, because I don't even know if this is credited on the IMDb. The first thing, I think it was the first job he ever did, was this TV show called The Judge. It's this really low budget TV show they shot live about. It's sort of like a fake Judge Judy, And we play brothers. And the story I always tell is the last day of shooting, his VW Bug broke down, so I gave him a ride back to Hollywood. And on the drive back, he's telling me about how he's writing and he's going to direct because that's the way he's going to break into film. And in the 80s, that was not how that worked, okay? Nobody was doing that. And I was like, I dropped him. I was like, yeah, good luck with that, pal. And, look what he went on to do as a writer and a director and as an actor, and he's a fine actor. So it's great to get to rework with him. The second funny story is, so in the movie, my biggest scene is when we're rousting Dwayne and his brother to tell us where the money is. And then we slit the brother's throat and Dwayne Johnson has to go, no, right? Well, this was the first days of shooting. We did that thing for days. No. And if it had been me after the third take, I just would have been like, what do you want me to do? I'll do that and we can be done with this, right? I'm not going to put myself through that pain over and over again. Dwayne Johnson, just a stone cold champ, right? Doesn't complain, doesn't make it, just does it to the best of his ability over and over again. And it just set this tone for the movie, right? If this guy's not tripping about anything, what can we do, right? So, But by this time I get to know him, and I can tell you he's just a really cool guy, good down to earth dude for the incredible amount of success and fame he has. So they finally turn around and do my part of the scene, which I have a bunch of dialogue, even though a lot of it's off camera. I do 3 takes. Director says moving on. So I looked at Dwayne and I go, see, man, that's how you do it. And the whole room, including him, just roars because we've been going through this shit for 3 days, right? And I would have never said anything like that if I didn't know he was a guy who didn't take himself too seriously. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's how he keeps like some kind of down to earth, because he knows he's a hard worker, but he knows he's lucky to be where he is. You know what I mean? It's like a combination. He seems like he has it figured out, man.
Historically, that is a hard transition to make. Rock star to actor is one thing, but wrestler, Hulk Hogan only went so far. By the time he was the lead, it was in sort of sub-tier movies where, The Rock's going to be in. He's the
first one. He's the first one to do it. Yeah. Now you got Cena doing it. Cena's following in the footsteps,
Yeah. But Jungle Cruise is certainly a tent pole of Disney's year. They're expecting the hugest things, and he's the lead. So he's the guy now.
Yeah, he's a guy you can't. He's on TV doing a television show, a series, doing a movie, and then hosting some other show that's on television. Guys I'm like, who?
And still wrestling. Everyone's showing up at least.
Right? But I'm like, how do they even? It's people's like, oh, Courtney, you're busy. No, that's busy, man. I don't know how that guy juggles a schedule to do all the stuff he's doing. They obviously must be willing to work with his schedule because his schedule is insane. I don't know how he gets so much done in a year.
I will say this one thing is, and I do love The Rock, but we talked about this on the Movie Guys once, a little round table of me and all my comedian friends, and I said, yeah, how does he be on Ballers? Then he's showing up on like TV, the what is it, the lip sync challenge show, and then he'll pop up in SmackDown and like do a whole thing. Then he's got like 3 movies coming out this year. And my friend Bart said, yeah, well, imagine having some team of people taking care of everything else in your life. I'm like, no, that's kind of that doesn't hurt.
I'm sure he does, but
he's earned it.
But he didn't he didn't have like a posse on set or none of that BS. So I give him credit there. But yeah, he definitely has a team coordinating his schedule on every. I mean, they're like, yeah, got a jet waiting for you, pal. As soon as you get off the scene, over here, there. I'm sure there's a whole coordinated effort going on. But that being said, it's still amazing how much content this guy gets done in a year. Much less if you go on his freaking Instagram, there's always something. He's always talking. He's working in the gym. He's talking. It's like it doesn't stop for this dude. Yeah,
that is one of my favorite lines in Central Intelligence with Kevin Hart, where he and Kevin Hart meet for the 20th anniversary high school reunion, and Kevin's like, "Man, I want to get big like you. How'd you get so big?" And he's like, "I worked out 6 hours a day for 20 years." And Kevin Hart's like, "Yeah, well, I guess."
I hear he has to take a break. He wakes up in the middle of the night, like 3 or 4 in the morning, and eats like 3 cans of tuna, just to keep those, the carbs coming in and the beef coming, to keep that big. I mean, the amount of food this guy has to put away. Can you imagine? Like, that's part of your job in life, is to wake up in the middle of the night to eat tuna, just so you can, crazy, man. I mean, you got to take it out of me. His discipline, his self-discipline, and all that.
Absolutely,
incredible.
No, his success is the result of the hard work.
Absolutely, man. There's no doubt. I mean, you could say, there's the hardest working man in show business. He's probably the guy right now.
Well, let me hit you with a question I ask everybody who I get in here for an interview, and that is, what is your favorite movie of all time?
Yeah, now I was warned, thank God, because that's like the weight of that question would collapse me. I'm gonna tell you a story, and then maybe we'll pick one of the 3.
Sure, and I will say everybody cheats, and I allow it. I got 5 movies for you, sure, or I've got the one I like right now.
Then I'm going to give you the story, and these are going to be the 3 movies. There you go. On. So my son, as a kid, I would let him, go see any movie he wanted to see, and if it had a fart joke in it, he thought it was good. You know what I mean? Like, that's Disney knows scatophobic humor, and the kids will say they loved it, right? So I saw a lot of garbage, and that's cool. We spend our time going to movies. But I had a trade-off for that. The trade-off was he had to watch 3 as like a 10, 11-year-old kid. He had to watch 3 movies that I wanted him to see. The 3 movies are On the Waterfront. So I could show him I said, you talk about these leading actors now, I'm going to show you the man. And at the end of that, his response was, Brando. And rightly so.
You're a fine parent.
The second movie was Manchurian Candidate, the original. Mm-hmm. And when he first started seeing that, I mean, I remember when I saw it, how you're going, what's going on here? But he's a kid, so he's articulating. He's like, this is weird. This is really weird. He's like getting really uncomfortable. And then you see what's happening about them being hypnotized and stuff. Then he goes, this is cool. And he still to this day remembers that movie. And the fight scene with Henry Silva, who I did a movie with, Lust in the Dust, with him and Sinatra, he literally remembers the choreography of that verbatim to this. If he goes into this, we know what fight we're going to have, It's like, so that movie. And then the last one was Citizen Kane. And I was like, there you go. You see those 3 movies as a kid, at least I'll have given you, what I consider some cinema history and cinema culture.
Yes. And then we can watch all the Frozens or whatever.
Exactly.
You want to see.
But I'm gonna show you what I think movie making should look like, and the kind of dream projects and roles, and actors that are out there.
That's damn fine parenting. And does On the Waterfront holds up, right? To me,
I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd probably, if I could only watch one more movie, I mean, the rest of my life, I'd probably pick On the Waterfront. Yeah. I think it holds up. I haven't seen it in a while, but I'm sure. It's not just Brando. I mean, Lee J. Cobb, man, is one of my favorite actors of that era. I mean, if I could, I mean, that guy, he's yelling, and I mean, Jesus Christ, 12 Angry Men, same type of thing. I mean, that guy just spews venom. You know what I mean? He's a beast. I mean, I like DJ Cobb is one of my favorite character actors of that era. So there's all these old fighters in it and stuff too, all these old beat up dudes, and it's great, man. It's great, and great, great director too. I mean, it's just it just goes on and on. That movie's got to be in like whatever the top 100 ranked movies of all time. So I'm pretty darn sure that movie's there.
Yeah, and then Citizen Kane
is the number one, right?
People always talk about it as like it's film school, and it is. Every shot is groundbreaking, and now has been aped 1,000 times by a million different filmmakers.
Of course.
But what gets overlooked too often is what a great story that is. Like, that's a great story. It's not just like they made them film and it's impressive for that. No, it's engaging and funny and dangerous and interesting, and like I just
so
love
dangerous, it. So dangerous. It essentially got got him blackballed. I mean, that's how dangerous that was. He took on Randolph Hearst, and that didn't go so well. It's that movie's folklore. You know what I mean? It's like it's rare that you do something that is so significant that it gets you banned. You know what I mean? And to think at the age that it was, he directed it and starred in it and did all of that.
It's gross. Almost.
It's the word genius gets thrown out too easy and too often, I think, but genius is not unworthy of in that project.
Absolutely. No, I'd watch Citizen Kane and just say, I've done nothing with my life.
Yeah. If you think you can maybe be a good director, watch that, and then if you still decide you have a voice, go get them, man, because there's the bar.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming aboard the TMG interview. This is, again, Queen Bees, I want to say, is out there now. Again, findable on all the VODs. Probably still in a few theaters, so go check that out. I know it came out a couple weeks ago now.
Got a couple more things I can plug real quick, if I may.
Lay them on me. Again, you are wicked prolific, so I'm not surprised.
So cool. So we got Queen Bees out now on theaters and VOD. We've got a movie coming out July 13th called River. That's a sci-fi indie film that also Gravitas is putting out. Got another movie that I just found out came out on Prime Video that none of us knew, including the director. It's called Await the Dawn. It's a horror film. Dee Wallace, Vernon Wells, fun ride. And another drama horror film I did called The Bleeding Dark that I played the lead. The trailer just came out. I don't know when the release is, but check out the trailer. And then musically, I have a couple things I want to talk about. I have a solo record I just started putting out singles on called Acoustic Gains. The second single, Cherish, just came out on Wednesday. So you can check that out on Spotify and iTunes and Deezer and all that. And then I also have a band called Ripple Street, and we just put out our third single of the year called Would You, that I sort of describe in a Black Sabbath-esque type thing. So you got this mellow acoustic thing, and you got this like hard rock thing to check out. So if you're interested in seeing something else I can do beyond acting, check it out. What do you got to lose?
Yeah, I saw the guitars behind you, and I knew you had your feet dipped in that the music pool. So that's cool, and it's kind of represented just there. You got electric and acoustic behind you, so it's both there.
Exactly, absolutely right.
And lastly, then, any plugs for social? Where can people find you? You already talked about posting something up there. So.
Find me on Facebook and Instagram under my name. That's it. Simple.
No other Courtney Gains got in there and tried to.
They might be, but you can figure out which one's me on Facebook. I'm the one posting all the good stuff that's actually happening.
Cool. And as ever, you can find everything we're up to, including reviews, articles, and more interviews like this, podcast appearances that Adam Witt and myself have been on at themovieguys.net. Thanks, Courtney.
Good seeing you.